Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me. My name is Eli. I go by Sergeant No. Some of y'all might know me by either or. And this is part two of my mini series, essentially just telling my story of how and when and why I joined the Air Force, leading up to my retirement, and just stories along the way and experiences that I had in my career. And hopefully, they're entertaining and educational. Now, I have welcome questions. It's very straightforward, unedited. So I might fumble through some of my stuff. And if you see me like pause for a little bit and about reading and stuff like that, information and that I want to present to you guys, that that's kind of how I want it, right? It's essentially having a conversation with you. And uh, in a one-on-one or even in a group setting, you don't do that. You don't edit yourself. You just tell stories. So hopefully this information is helpful and educational. And I definitely am going to give some information in regards to basic minimum requirements to joining the Air Force and Space Force towards the end of this video. And if you're joining me and this content is helpful and you're looking at potentially joining either of those branches or any of the other branches, some of this information is cross all the branches at a minimum requirement. There are other specific requirements per branch, but I'll present that information towards the end. Things that came up in regards to other conversations I've had, and I've had either as just me walking out in the street or when I was a recruiter, some of the stuff that I saw when I was actively recruiting individuals back in the day. So part one tackled basic training, right? And a little bit of how that experience was. And from basic training, once it's completed, you move on to your technical school, depending on the career field you go into, which are AFSCs, which is the code assigned to the job that you're in. Mine was 3PO, which is security forces. And as you can see right here, I don't know if that's clear enough, but that's a SF patch, which often I've got asked questions about special forces, and I could see the misunderstanding because of the SF, which obviously we're not. We're law enforcement, right? That's what we do. There are components within security forces that let you do some pretty cool stuff. I wouldn't say at the level as special forces, but definitely are some pretty cool components. You get to do like breacher school, sniper school, and airborne, SEER, various other trainings that are within available to you as a security forces member as well. And then we also have different shred outs, which are essentially you're a cop, but you have a different capacity. So you have the canine units, which are canine handlers, dog handlers, and then you also have the weapons instructors or CADM and those different shred outs. And you could do those too, not straight from civilian to that. You have to go through security forces and then cross train, essentially lateral cross train into those components. And if you like guns and you want to be a weapons instructor and teach other people, mind you, you're not just training cops on how to handle weapons. We're also training the entire base populace. That includes medical, individuals, admins, stuff like that, because everybody has to be proficient in firing and has to have an annual certification in the weapons. And those are the pistol and the rifle. In basic training, you'll get to shoot those as well. When I came through, I shot the M16 and 9mm Beretta. And now I believe it's M4. I don't know if they're still using the Berettas in basic training. I know not too long ago, the military as a whole was looking at a different weapon system for the pistol. Still 9mm, just a different brand. And I know they lost the contract with Beretta, or not necessarily lost it, but we're looking at a different brand, a different manufacturer. So, and then K9 is pretty self-explanatory. If you want to be a dog handler, you're still a cop. You just have a dog with you. and you still get to do a lot of the law enforcement stuff and use the dog as needed, right? Depending on the situation. And the dogs have a bomb component and a narcotic component. So depending on what area what type of dog you'll get, those are the type of missions that you could potentially end up doing too. So in technical school, it varies once you get there. So from basic training, I thought, I was going to go off to maybe another state, somewhere else far away, and train to be a cop. I got the lovely surprise that morning when I got on the bus and we drove like 4 or 5 blocks down the street from basic training across the base and dropped off right at the doorstep of security forces dormitory and technical school, and still in Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio. So that was a very lovely surprise, which was, if you're not catching on, I'm being a little sarcastic. I was kind of bummed out, but still made the best of it. So I made it to tech school, and that was several months. If I remember, it was somewhere between 4 or 6 months, somewhere around there. And if it's about the same now, and if you're a cop, former cop, correct me if I'm wrong, put it down in the comments. I don't shy away from making mistakes. So if I do misspoke or anything like that, feel free to comment down below and hash it out, right? Let me know. I definitely want accurate information out there. So in tech school, depending on your job, it can vary from a couple of weeks to several months, up to a couple of years, I would say, depending on the career field. Some of the longer ones are like linguistics, right? If you're learning a new language, it definitely takes a lot more schooling that goes along with that to be proficient in that career field. So technical school is just giving you the bare minimums to be proficient in your job. So basic training gives you the technical or the more minimal skills to be an airman and have the Air Force core values and procedures learned and got rid of all your bad habits as a civilian. That's the purpose of basic training. Technical school helps refine that a little bit more. So think of it as a mold, if you will, right? If you want to use that concept. And every step of the way, the trainers in the, your basic technical school, and even when you get to your first duty station, they're essentially help mold you to be more efficient and proficient in that career field. In technical school, we learned everything from combatives, weapons, standard law enforcement stuff, and then other components because as a cop as well, we're very versatile. We're as close as infantry, if you will, as it gets. And those that are in the Air Force now or are former cops in the Air Force, correct me if I'm wrong, we're as close as infantry as it gets for the Air Force. We deploy with Army and Marines, most of the time similar mission, do a lot of the similar style missions. So there is that component. I wouldn't say it's a 1-for-1. There are like some crossovers, okay? And if you disagree, fight me in the comments, all right? So tech school was fun. Other than the training, it's a little bit more relaxed. It's not so high tempo, getting yelled at, do this, do that, the craziness that came when I joined or when I went to basic training. You get weekends off to do something, right? Other than train, you get to decompress a little bit more. You go through different phases. Once you get to, I think it was phase 3, if I remember correctly, that's when you've earned that phase in order to, you showed that you're responsible enough that they could trust you if you go off base or do something outside of the peripheral view of the training compound. you're not going to go out there and do some knucklehead stuff, right? So you gain your face cards and they allow you off-base privileges on the weekends and stuff like that. And if you have a vehicle or I had the advantage being a local that my mom drove my vehicle down to San Antonio from Dallas, and on the weekends I could just get in my car with a couple of buddies of mine. We just go out in town, down the river walk, the mall, whatever it may be, and and that was a pretty cool part of being in tech school. And most tech schools are like that, right? Again, some of them are not that long, so you might not even get a chance to do that just because it's maybe a couple of weeks and then you're off to your duty station. So my team in technical school was about 30 plus people, and we're like, very tight family. We watched after each other, and you have to. One gets out of line, one gets in trouble. It's all the whole buddy system, right? If they don't show up to mandatory roll call, PT, whatever it may be, because they were out partying, doing some knucklehead stuff, and they were supposed to have a battle buddy with them. Everybody gets to experience the pain that comes with not being up to standard, right? So we were very tight knit. We definitely got into some knucklehead situations. There was one time that we got into an altercation at the bowling alley, and it resulted in a couple of us almost getting washed back. And we also ended up getting our guidon, which is a flag that you're assigned to your team that has your team number on there and everything. It ended up getting stolen by the individuals that we got into the altercation with, and they were not very friendly on returning it, even when our instructor went over to that training team's section and was like, hey man, look, I know our guys got into it, whatever, but we need that back. And even their guys were like, what are you talking about? We don't have your thing, even though it was like sitting on a mount right above their head. And it was kind of a situation for a while, I think for like 2-3 weeks. And until they resolved that, our punishment was essentially we got a mop with a piece of cloth attached to it and handwritten with our team number on there. And that was our guidon for a couple of weeks until we ended up finally getting ours back. So, we got made fun of it as a team walking around with that at the lead of our formations and stuff like that. It happens, the punishments for one, not maintaining professional etiquette and maintaining proper control over the issued items, gear, whatever it may be. So there's punishments and consequences that come with it. So yeah, that was, that situation was funny on the back end. And there were other times that we would get just playing around. We would around the dormitories, get gear on, dressed up like ninjas and stuff like that. And again, you're passing the time. And after study, because there was still a lot of studying at technical school, and you got to kill time, and just so you won't lose your mind with all the reading and knowledge-based stuff that you have to do, and just messed around with some of the other teams. And nothing crazy. It was just, it's a mutual like back and forth, water balloon fight, stuff like that. And if you're from another branch, man, if y'all want to, whatever y'all want to say in the comments, feel free. The Air Force always gets a lot from our sister branches saying that we're the chair force and we don't really have that hard of a training and stuff like that. Okay, hey, you made your choice, right? And I made mine. I joined the Air Force for a reason. So I'll leave it at that. In technical school, the training that we did was beneficial and it was fun, and got to experience a lot of cool stuff. Got to meet a lot of great people. A lot of them I'm still in touch with, and we were very close. They ended up going to various locations all over the world, Europe and Hawaii and Japan. But I still keep in touch with a lot of them, and two of them have since retired medically, and one of them is still in. And if you're watching this, bud, hey man, congratulations and everything you've accomplished. I'm very proud of you, moving along, and congratulations on coming on to your retirement too, man. So I'll see you on that other side when I punch out as well. So yeah, technical school, again, it varies weeks, months, year, depending on your job. As a cop, I came in mostly because I was very impatient when I was dealing with my process. I wanted to come in a load master, but there was a wait, and along with qualification factors. I have no regrets, that's for sure. It's been a blast having the training and experience, and not only that, the people that I've met along the way as a cop. So yeah. All right, so I don't know. Lost my train of thought on that one. All right, but I do want to touch on a couple of things. So I did mention at the beginning of the video that I was going to mention some beneficial information if you're looking to join the Air Force, right? As of right now, what the minimum requirements are. And I could touch more on this in the comments if you have any other questions. There's a plethora of information out there. Anything you find out in the internet that's not directly from the airforce.com webpage or directly from your recruiter. If you're on a Reddit site or some kind of forum, take everything with a grain of salt, right? Regulations constantly change, qualifications constantly change. There's so much stuff available now. I should say, there's so much more things acceptable now that are waiverable comparatively to when I came in, right? Tattoos, piercings, certain law violations, drug usage is like one of the biggest ones that we've changed that have helped a lot of people be able to join the Air Force, right? Marijuana back in the day when I came in, like if you used more than 10 times, that was an automatic no-go. You were done. Don't even bother coming back to the office. And now, like, yeah, you know, if you do use marijuana, and if you're considering joining, definitely stop, right? Because you will have a drug test, and if you pop positive, it's going to look really bad on you in your process, and it's going to make it very difficult to get a waiver approved as well, right? So keep that in mind, and just be honest with your recruiter. That is, if you take away anything from this recording, and if you're wanting to join the Air Force, Space Force, is always be honest with your recruiter. No matter what it is and how minimal you think it might be, and that it's like, oh, this doesn't really matter, or it's not really going to affect me, just bring it up, right? And the reason I say this is because everything eventually comes out. You know, if you are withholding some information and you get to basic training or even technical school or even in your career, and you end up bringing something up that you've never said before, people are always listening, people are always watching. And if you bring it up, that could affect your security clearance in many ways, a lot of that stuff. And now you run the risk of getting kicked out of the military, losing your certification in some cases on the lesser end, right? And still being able to stay in, but now losing your job, all that stuff. And on top of that, you just wasted time and effort and money on everybody's behalf, to include yourself, just because you forgot to bring up that one thing or say that one thing that got you disqualified. So it's best to just bring it up, address it with your recruiter, and go from there, right? If you have it up front and they're like, yep, it's going to need a waiver, or sorry, you're disqualified. Just because you're disqualified, understand you're not it's not completely a no-go. There are some things that are waiverable, but if you are permanently disqualified, even then, there are some things on a case-by-case basis that can be waiverable, but it's very difficult to get them approved. But if you are done, and you are still wanting to join the military as a whole, talk to your recruiter. They might have a good relationship with the sister branches, Navy, Army, National Guard, Marines, and maybe they will be able to help you in that regards, right? Fortunately, as far as the Air Force Space Force School, that might be the end of that road for you, and you have to accept that. You know, every decision you make has a consequence. Even in your earlier years, it will follow you. And if you're in your teens right now, early 20s, and you're considering joining the Air Force, take everything that I say, you know, and start making those changes now, right? A lot of influencers and leaders out there and coaches that I've met along the years, one of the biggest things that they always kind of harp on is, in the one statement, and I'm paraphrasing, is the, you know, you are the sum of the circle you keep, essentially. So if your friends in your circle, to include your family, are not where you want to be, or they don't have the same train of thought as you as far as like leveling up and being better than where you are right now, you definitely want to start cutting some of those people out. And unfortunately, some might be family, right? But if you keep them in your circle, you are not going to be able to move up, not necessarily at all, but maybe not as quickly as you want. And they could potentially affect your eligibility to join the Air Force as well. So keep that in mind. And then just start changing your habits, have better habits that will essentially align with what the Air Force core values are, right? And go with that, right? If you smoke weed, stop smoking weed. If you drink, I mean, if you're of age to drink legally, and if you drink, probably cut back a little bit, right? And clean yourself up. If your fitness game isn't strong, start working on that. Cardio is one of the biggest ones that a lot of people get affected by, and they think like mile and a half is not that bad. Well, if you've never ran or don't do it all that often, yeah, people look like they're about to have a heart attack out in the field. So you know, push-ups, sit-ups, running, do those minimum types of workouts. If you go to the airforce.com webpage, there are some resources there that give you like basic fitness regimens that could be beneficial to give you a good starting point to build off of, to get into one healthy habit, and then get into a position where if and when you end up taking the physical assessment test for the Air Force, it's not going to be that bad, or it won't even phase you at all, right? So keep that in mind. Weight, right? Again, going into fitness, if you're on a little bit on the heavier end, depending on your height, there's a certain weight requirement per height. So talk to your local Air Force recruiter about that. That information could be given to you there. Or if you have a question about anything else, comment down below, or search me on any of the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, i.m.sgto, and shoot me a DM and ask me the question. Right now, I'll get that information for you as soon as I can. Minimum age is 17. If you're younger than that and you're still looking at potentially joining, there's nothing wrong with talking to a recruiter, right? Just getting basic information, and at least getting that stuff together so you know what they're going to need. So when you're ready to start the process, just make it as easy as possible for yourself and your recruiter. The easier it is, the faster the process goes, the quicker, and not necessarily better chances it gives you for jobs, because the factors for getting your job is the ASVAB, right? Which if you're in high school right now, I highly recommend you take it. even if you're not considering joining the Air Force. ASVAB actually has a lot of valuable information in regards to giving you areas that help you understand yourself a little bit better, like areas you excel in, right? Minimum required score for joining the Air Force on the ASVAB is a 32. Understand, a 32, you qualify for 2 jobs academically. You only qualify for maybe 2 jobs. So your goal should always be at the minimum, like 55 or higher. That will open up your availability for jobs academically, right? So that's the first step. Second step is your physical. And the physical is not a go run, go jump, push-ups, sit-ups. The physical is a standard sports physical. So when you get to a certain point in your process with the recruiter, they're going to send you to the MEPS station, which is the Military Entry Processing Center. And they're going to do a full-on sports physical from top to bottom, male and female, it doesn't matter. There's certain requirements depending on your gender. And they're going to make sure that you, at the minimum, you're as healthy as possible and you're still healthy enough to join, right? If you have certain medical conditions, those will be looked at and they could be potential disqualifying factors, right? If you've had issues in the past or anything medically documented, bring that information up to your recruiter. Do not withhold it, because we have the Genesis system, which talks to all medical professionals, and basically they can pull your record from when you were a baby, essentially, and all that stuff will populate. So just because you don't bring it up because you happen to not remember, that's one thing. But if you knew about it and withheld it, and then it comes out, it looks really bad on you, right? And not only that, you put your recruiter in a bad position where they can't vouch for you. They're saying, oh, he's a good individual, good character, XYZ, and now you lied and withheld information. How can he still make those claims? He or she can make those claims about you and then vouch for you. And if you need a waiver, how are you still a good candidate at that point if you're willing to lie, right? You got to look at it that way. So be honest with your recruiter, be straightforward, bring up as much information as possible. Those questions that they're asking you to do the pre-qualification, they're asking for a reason, right? And it's only just to help you to be more eligible to join. It's not to keep you out. We want you to join. If you do something that keeps you out of the Air Force, that's on you, right? At the end of the day, that recruiter is still going to be able to go home. They're still going to get paid. If they decide to make a career out of it, they're still going to retire. So you not joining doesn't really affect their livelihood in any capacity. So there's no negative downside for them, right? And that's not, I'm not saying that because it's not that they don't care about you. Most recruiters, if not all that I've met personally, these are my opinions, care about their applicants, right? And this is, I can only speak for the Air Force recruiters that I've met. If you had a different experience, I'm sorry you went through that. If you are having that experience now with your recruiter, reach out to a different recruiter. Nothing says that you have to stick it out with that recruiter. You are not bound to that recruiter. So definitely you can have a different experience and go somewhere else if you don't believe that your recruiter is showing up as optimal as they should be. 17 to join, and that's with parental consent. 39 is the cutoff. So if you are 38 and some change and you're looking to join, you need to be in basic training before you turn 39. So if you're 39 right now, this is May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, today, and you're looking at joining and you turn 39 next month, probably not going to join. I'm gonna let you know right now. The process takes too long on average. On the lower end, 45 to 50 days. Sometimes it could be a couple months. And that's like, if you don't have anything in your medical, legal, or anything like that, you're still looking at about a 30, 45 day turnaround to get you through the process, through the system, and get everything squared away for you to ship out to basic training. So if you're 39 now, sorry. If you're 38 and you got, let's say, 6 months to play with that cushion area, and you're looking at joining, start talking to your recruiter ASAP so that you can get a lot of that stuff squared away and through the process as quickly as possible. ASVAB, again, 32 minimum. You do not need a high school diploma or a GED always. There are requirements, but asterisk, you can have, if you don't have either of those, but you are in college at this point, you could have, if you have college credits, those will be supplemental for the GED or high school diploma. Or other asterisk, if you score high enough on your ASVAB, and I have to get back to you guys on this one, and if you score high enough on the ASVAB, it will then supplement that, so you won't need the high school diploma or GED. I want to say it's like, I don't know, it's pretty high. I don't want to give you false information. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will come back to this on part 3 and mention this information, or if I'll put it down in the comments when I find out the information. So again, GED, high school diploma, college, or even high enough ASVAB score will be the requirements to join. If you are a family individual and you have spouse or kids, you can join. If you have more than 4 kids, fortunately, you are disqualified. The cutoff is 4 kids. All right, can't be bringing out them babies all at once. Can't really tell you what the specific reason behind that is, but just know 4 is the limit. So that's yourself, your spouse, and then 4 babies. That's it. 5 babies, sorry, you're disqualified. What's another one? Health, it's case by case. So if you have any health issues, anything concerning, or even if you have questions on a couple things that you're like, I don't know if this would be an issue, feel free to reach out and ask me. And definitely check out other influencers. There's other Air Force veterans that have channels too that speak on a lot of this information. I'm not saying I'm the end all be all. This is just, again, just me talking to a camera, and hopefully it's entertaining and educational to you guys. I will definitely want to see you guys succeed, even if you don't join the military. Whatever you decide to do with your life, do it to the best of your ability. Show, no matter how hard it can be, and I know there are days that can be difficult, show up and give it your all, because at the end of the day, you're gonna regret not showing up at 100%, right? Show up, and if you fail, lesson learned, right? It's not the end all be all. If you keep showing up every single day, you will succeed. I promise you that. Okay. Yeah, so hopefully this information was helpful to you guys, and if you've lasted this long and been watching me this long, thank you for sticking around, and thank you for coming back, and I'll see you on part 3. Take care and God bless.